Hi everyone. Now, at the moment I'm actually filling a box of Dynamite Harrys. Basically this is Dynamite Harry here. Well, the original one doesn't have a tail but basically it's a variant of the original Dynamite Harry. I'm going to be tying a CDC version. Now, CDC, I mean basically the Dynamite Harry's tied with in this case, this is a polypro or a parapost type fibre, basically representing the body at the back as well as the wing. Now you can do it with CDC. Now, I did try this a few times this year and the fly worked really well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to tie it using CDC instead of using like a parapost or a polypro or anything like that. So and it's a great style, it's a great pattern. So anyway, here we are. The thread I'm going to be using in this case is the yellow uni thread in 8/0. Now I'm just going to run the wax through it first to get it started. Let's just start at the eye with the hook, and then basically I'm going to run it down. Now normally you would stop round about the point of the hook and then tie on, if you're doing the original Dynamite Harry, and then you'd have like a polypro or a parapost type body and then a post for the wing. In this case I'm going to be putting a tail on as well as a bit of a body, so I'm going to go down a stage or two. I'm going down 2 or 3 mil past the point of the hook. Now before I get any further, the hook I'm using in this case, it's a wide gape hook. It's a, believe it or not, it's a Czech Nymph, as you can see. It's a Nymph hook, but it's a great hook for tying dries. I like to use it, and it suits, like, I like the wide gape, it hooks better and suits a detached like body like this is. It sits a wee bit higher up. You can use a standard hook. I do use standard hooks, but I always found that a hook like this works really well. And this is a size 16. Now, first thing I'm going to do is put the tail on. I've got the Coq de Leon fibre. This is a light Pardo. Now, tail length, I like a decent length because it is part of the body, because it actually melts into the body itself. So we've got the tail on, and now, as you see, I just did a turn underneath to lift the fibres a wee bit, and then trim away the waist, but obviously I've got the length of the body there. Now for the body I'm using, this is a light olive Peacock quill. So I'm tearing it off and we tie it in. Now when I tie this in, when I tear it off, I get this, what you call a slice or a small piece of the stem of the feather, and I usually use that to tie it in. So I come around and just catch it. So it's a nice thin piece of fibre to catch it in. Now make sure that the fibre or the herald is, the side that's got no herald on it is actually facing up, and the herald's at the base. It's so when you wind it, turn it over, that's the leading edge with the herald. So we take the thread up. You'll see as I wind on how this comes out. Now give yourself room for you need to give yourself room for the body, which is part of this is part of the body, but some of the CDC feather as well as a bit of thorax. So take it up to that point there, and make sure you wax your thread. Now to protect the quill, you could use either a thin layer of super glue or varnish. I'm using, super glue, just a tiny bit. And I'm going to wind over that. Now you see the leading edge has the herald, so you get this nice quill effect to this point here, and then we catch it in at the top, 2 or 3 turns. Trim that away. See, everything's just sitting. I say, don't be shy, because this is part of the body will come into here. Now we've got 2 sort of medium to small natural CDC feathers, natural coloured. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this, pull them together like this, and then put the wing, make sure they're lined up. Now you're looking for a wing length round about the hook, tied over the eye. You want 3 or 4 turns just to get it started. Now at this point I usually just make sure it's sitting where I want before I go any further. Check the length, make sure the length is what you like, and don't be shy with the wing length, make sure you can see it. Now normally with when you're doing the Dynamite Harry you would have a taper effect with the parapost or polypro, whatever you use. But what I'm going to do here is just leave one of these stems. You don't need both. I'm just going to pick the best one, just looking at the most fibre. So I usually take one of them out, because you don't need both. You could leave the both if you want, but it just gets a bit heavy then. So I'm going to take one out. And then I'm going to basically trim this towards the back of the hook in the centre of the stem. So if you imagine just cutting the centre of the stem, and then I just usually pull that away and leave that sit. That gives the impression of the body, so that sits there. Now I'm going to put some dubbing on which will help flatten it. That's fine. Now I'm using here this one here. This is a, you can see it there, it's a UV fine and dry. This is a Callibaetis, which is a nice enough colour. It's a lovely colour. It goes with this fly. So this is basically a dry fly dubbing or a nymph dubbing. Very good for both. And then what I'm going to do is just wind some in the top. So the back of the thorax here to the wing. You don't need much. Bring your thread to the front. And then what I've got is this is a saddle, Grizzle saddle I've dyed. Now this is basically a brown olive dye I've used, but it's a tiny drop. It's a Vineyards brown olive. You get this nice pale colours, and I love the mix between the Grizzle and the colour, the white. So what I'm going to do is bare some of the stem. I'm just going to basically pull the wing back, catch it with the tip of the stem. I've just sort of removed the fibre from. Now you want to post both the hackle and the wing together. So posting meaning like just wind your thread at the base of the wing, but winding the hackle into it as well. Just come up, I don't really go that far, maybe a mil or so, a mil and a half at the most, but make sure your thread ends up in front of the wing here. And then you just want to, maybe, depends on the hackle really, 4 to 5 turns at the most. And then what I do here is I just lift all the fibres till I get basically so I can see the hackle, catch it with my fingers. 3 or 4 turns in, I fold this back because fortunately enough that hackle was nice and thin, nice thin stem. So I fold that back and then I usually break it off, but I'll trim it away. Trim that away, go back to my dubbing just to tidy up the front. Now you only need a tiny wee drop, you don't need a lot. Just hold the fibre out the way and then just tidy up. Just a wee quick look, that's fine. And then take your thread to the eye. Get some varnish. The easiest way to varnish the head is just to apply some varnish to the thread. Just about a centimetre from the eye down. And then we hold the fibre back. 1, 2, 3. That'll lock in the whip finish. Trim that away. And there we are. I've got one fibre there, so I'm just going to trim it out. And there you go. Now the CDC fibre like that, it actually supports the fly, makes it sit. It's far sparser than if you look at the original. I just tried it just to see what it was like, to get the impression. If I turn it around you can see. Now when you're tying the smaller sizes with the CDC you've got to use the small feathers. You go really down to the small feathers to get the fine stem, so that it's not too stiff. But that there, surprisingly how well it floats the fly at the back. Obviously the two tips give the impression of the wing and then the support of the hackle. So, and it's a great colour. It's a great, this colour works really well, and you may have seen me fishing some of these flies on a couple of the videos I have on YouTube, so give it a go. Certainly, it was one of the questions. Some people don't like using synthetic fibre, they prefer to stick to the natural fibre all the time, and that, to me, that works. This works straight. It works really well. So it does. I mean, you can even mess about with it, make it a wee bit shorter. So you can, if you think that's too big, you can always trim it back. So you can, and it will still work. But keep it to the back of the hook at least. And then halfway into the tail, because that's where I like to have it. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, give it a go. You'll be surprised how well it works. And it gives a great impression on the water. And that's what makes the fly, and that's what makes these patterns work really well. So thank you for watching, and until next time.